airplane. I'm so dedicated to these weekly fireside chats that if you knew the week I had, I was in, let's see, for 10 days, I would say about 7 different cities in 10 days, all over the country lecturing, including a really, really wonderful evening at Colorado State University. About 1,200 folks, most of them students, came, and obviously adults from the area as well. It's in Fort Collins, Colorado, about an hour and 10 minutes north of Denver. And it was a very wonderful experience. I realize I love talking to college audiences, college students. They don't normally hear what I have to say in the way that I say it. And it's very healthy for me to have that opportunity with students who don't agree with or think they don't agree with what I say, or with conservatives generally, and then for all these others, for almost 1,000 others, to hear someone who knows how to answer these challenges. I think it's an eye-opening experience, a mind-opening experience. There really are answers to these challenges that are offered and seem to have no answers, because the left dominates the campus. So when I come to a campus, it's a very important thing for me. Sadly, it was the only time that I ever asked for any security. I always get security, but I asked for it last night. Boy, did they give me! I thought these are guys from the Army, the way they were dressed up. We're going to put the picture on the website. But I'd like you to watch it. Is it up, Rodrigo? Is it up?
Very soon.
Very soon. Okay, so by the time you folks see this, it should be up. But I would like you to watch it. And I would like those of you who are older and have kids in college, or grandchildren, or nephews, or nieces, I want them to see a conservative talking, a non-leftist really, talking to students. Because I talk in the same way I'm talking to you, very real, very natural, and it's very important for people to hear these talks, because how often does a college student get to hear a coherent, intellectually based talk on behalf of traditional values? The truth is, almost never. In many cases, never. That's the reason, by the way, the fireside chats are important. It's another opportunity. So welcome to my home, as I always say. There's a real fire, and here's a real man. And this is completely unscripted. It's just myself talking to you. So this past week was a terrible tragedy in American life. All mass shootings are terrible tragedies. I mean, there's no, you can't weigh one against another. The loss of an innocent life is so horrific. I have never lost my horror over murder. Never. I remember when I first learned that people murdered people as a kid, and I was horrified. I have not lost, I'm not jaded, I have not lost that sense of horror. And that's why I believe in the death penalty for premeditated murder. The thought that this guy who murdered these 11 Jews at synagogue will get to keep his life, it is so unjust that, look, I've talked about capital punishment, so I'm not going to review it. There are lectures of mine on it. I've written on it. But even if you're against it, you have to have the intellectual honesty to at least say the following: it's not fair. Okay? Just admit that. Whatever your arguments against capital punishment may be, maybe an innocent will be killed, whatever. But whatever they may be, at least, I know you're intellectually honest if you're an opponent of the death penalty, if you are at least will say it's not fair. He gets to keep his life after he took 11 lives. Okay? If you think that's fair, then it's not that we differ on the death penalty. It's that we differ on what the concept of fair means. It's so obviously, it's a cosmic injustice. This guy's going to have meals and then workout places, and, I'm not going to keep him in solitary confinement. That's torture. I'm not for torture. I'm for the death penalty. He doesn't deserve to keep his life. And then they say, oh, well, but the guy, he's somewhat mentally disturbed. So to which my answer is, so what? So if there is a creature that is so mentally disturbed as to believe that murdering innocent people is good, they're not really human, are they? They may have a human body. They're biologically human, but what you're telling me is there is a creature that can't help murdering people. So why would we want to keep that creature, whatever you want to call it, alive? I mean, it's ironically, you're making a bigger argument for the death penalty. We have this machine, a killing machine. But if there were any other killing machine, it would be destroyed. So I don't buy this mentally ill. I don't know if he's mentally ill. He's obviously emotionally disturbed. The guy was a loner, like all these mass murders. They're all loners. I don't trust loners. It's not a good thing. A human being is meant to be with people, to have friends. So I wrote my column on this. I have my weekly column was on this subject. And I, as a Jew, obviously it hit me in a specific way, being a Jew who attends synagogue virtually every Shabbat, every Sabbath, every Saturday. So for all intents and purposes, obviously, it could have been my synagogue and my friends or me. So I relate to it very directly, but I'm as upset as an American as I am as a Jew, because it's, as it were, America has joined the ranks of countries where there was a mass murder of Jews. It's not America's fault, believe me. It's just sad. It's just sad. Since 1776, this has not occurred. So it's a sort of a loss of innocence, if you will. And it's painful. The whole thing's painful, but there's something almost as painful, and that is all of this blaming of the president for what happened. Let me say, as an American, as a Jew, and as someone who believes in truth, it is one of the vilest lies of my lifetime that President Trump is in some way responsible for this man's behavior. People who don't like the president are prepared to say anything. Truth is much less significant to these people than delegitimizing this presidency. I don't care if you're pro or anti-Trump. You've got to be pro some teensy bit of truth. Oh, well, anti-Semitism has increased in America since Trump was elected. That's, if you look at the data, actually look at it, the whole thing is a gigantic lie. Look up the article. I should put it up on our website. But there's an article by Professor Bernstein of George Mason University on, he's written for Tablet on this, and he's written for, also for Volokh, the Volokh conspiracy. Volokh is a libertarian professor, and he has a very good website. Eugene Volokh, V-O-L-O-K-H. And this Professor Bernstein delineates all the falsehoods of the Anti-Defamation League report on violence against Jews since the president. Most of it is about bomb threats called into Jewish community centers, but none of them were called in by Trump supporters. 90% were called in by an American Jewish kid who is mentally disturbed, who's living in Israel. So it's all nonsense. But I will be writing on this, but you could look at this Professor Bernstein's, I think it's Edward, but I'm not certain. It's just not true about anti-Semitism since the president has been elected. It's not true. I'm tempted to say it's a lie, because it is a lie, but I hate using the L word because it's such a charge to say they're lying, but they are. I don't know what other word to use. But they don't care, because for folks on the left, it is more important to get rid of this president and delegitimize him than to tell the truth. So if you have to lie to get rid of him, lie to get rid of him. But they believe their lies. They really believe that there's an increase in anti-Semitism since this president is in. And the data are not there. They're cooked. So either I'm lying or they're lying, okay? So just you should know, okay? Let me make it as clear as possible. I am putting myself out on a limb here. Either I'm lying or the ADL and the New York Times and the whole crowd of the left is lying. One of us is. We can't both be telling the truth because we're saying the opposite things. It's disgraceful. It's just disgraceful. And that's all you hear if you watch CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, PBS, NPR, New York Times, Washington Post. It doesn't matter. They're in lockstep because they have an agenda, and the agenda is not truth. The agenda is delegitimizing this presidency. That's very very bad. The mayor of Pittsburgh, a Democrat, says the president of the United States should not go to Pittsburgh after this slaughter. What an audacity. What nerve. Can you imagine a Republican mayor after some massacre in his city telling President Obama don't show up? Under chutzpah. Pure, undiluted chutzpah is just these Democrats and these leftists. Don't come to my city? This guy has a Jewish daughter and who goes to synagogue. That's the eye. It could have been his daughter and son-in-law. And he in some way is responsible? That's sick. It's just sick. I don't care if you hate Trump. You got to love truth more than you hate Trump. But that is not possible for the left. That is not possible. I have just described an impossibility. That's where we stand. It's really unfortunate. I'm not smoking a cigar for those of you tuning in. About 4 weeks ago, I had to stop because Facebook finds it offensive that I would appear on this and smoke a cigar. America's legalized marijuana, but you don't want to show kids that an adult is smoking a cigar. This is mind-blowing. You know, I don't know if it's true, so I acknowledge this at the outset. But I heard from a pretty reputable source. I admit I always check it out. But it sounds so plausible that I believe it, but I acknowledge I don't have personal proof yet. That in some city in Virginia, they have outlawed trick-or-treating if you're over 14 years of age. Have you heard about that? 14, that's what I said.
No, multiple cities, not just one.
Oh, multiple cities. This is not the America I grew up in. America I grew up in was much freer. Who the hell is the government to tell a 15-year-old you are an outlaw if you trick or treat? You don't find that sick? Oh, it's always done in the name of safety. Safety, safety. What's going to happen? What, a 15-year-old is what? I don't understand. What are they going to do? Give razor blades and apples? What is the thinking? They'll rape somebody at the door? I don't even, what is the thinking? If a 32-year-old wants to trick or treat, he can trick or treat. It's a free country. It was a free country. 14 years old. Oh, and wait, we're not done. Oh, and all of this, the most mind-blowing of all, cultural appropriation. What the hell is that about? So if a non-Hispanic wears a sombrero, a Mexican hat, that's cultural appropriation? What? This is why the left is so dangerous. They make up bad things and then they outlaw them, essentially. Even though it might be legal, your life is ruined if you do it. Your reputation, your life, you might be brought up for charges at a college. What is wrong if an Anglo wears a sombrero? What is wrong with it? I don't even understand. It's not even a matter of I don't agree. I don't understand. What is wrong? Isn't it beautiful? I think it's beautiful if Anglos make burritos. It's a nice thing. It's a nice thing if Mexicans make hot dogs. It's good. It means we're learning from each other. We're enjoying each other. We're celebrating each other. What's wrong with that? But everything is wrong to the left. because they live purposeless lives, so they need to make up causes. You understand? Causes are to the left what oxygen, causes and hysteria are to the left what oxygen is to biological life. Cultural appropriation? You have to be kidding. I'm a Jew. Do you think I care if you, a non-Jew, wear Jewish garb? That's cultural appropriation. I think it's awesome. The more people who want to do Jewish things, the healthier it is for Jews. It's a good thing. It's like the idiot who called my show one time, and when I defended the name Washington Redskins, said, well, Dennis, well, what would you think if they were a team named Jews? I said to the guy, truth is, Jews have been looking for fans for 3,000 years. It'd be awesome. Yay, go Jews! We're a stupider society than the one I grew up in, thanks to the left. Because of my rule of life, whatever the left touches, it ruins. Religion, the arts, universities. Cultural appropriation? Again, it's not even that I differ, it's that I don't understand what could be wrong with it. If a non-black wants to have dreadlocks, so I don't quite understand. Blacks have a monopoly on dreadlocks? The Jews have a monopoly on skull caps? You know, the Jews came before the Catholics. If the Pope wears a skull cap, Jews should yell cultural appropriation. Take it off. We wore yarmulkes 1,000 years before you ever existed. God, the drivel that you young people have to live with because of the left, and you don't realize it. How could you realize it? You think this is normal to have everything banned. That's the amazing. You think it's normal. It's not normal. It's sick. Cultural appropriation is a sick. It's a notion. It's a sick notion that it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. I feel for you. If you're a young person watching, I feel for you. Because you don't know what you're deprived of because of the left. You don't know. That's a good example. You've got to, before you say anything, you have to walk on eggshells with all human beings. Gee, but if I wear a Mexican hat, or if I eat a burrito, am I engaged in there? Am I offending? Am I offending? Am I offending? Am I offending? How could you, why is it an offense? What is offensive about it? So Halloween, you can't dress up as anything except yourself, right? Everything is ultimately cultural appropriation. What are you going to dress up as? You? Everybody should wear a suit. Like me, dress up like me. But why isn't that a cultural appropriation? If you're non-Western, this is Western garb. Why should an Asian kid wear this? Right? Is that cultural appropriation? I tell you, I could cry for my society. But people take it. I don't. I was born a fighter. Because I hate bullies, and the left are the biggest bullies that exist. There are no bullies like the left. None. This is an example of bullying. So let's see. 14-year-olds in city after city can't go, a 14-year-old can't go trick-or-treating. You can't wear a costume that has to do with any other culture. But what if let's say, wait, I'm just curious. Whoa, just hit me. What if you're half black and half white? What are you allowed to do then? Right? I mean, let's be honest, right? Or, if you're like Elizabeth Warren, you're 164th American Indian. Can you go as an American Indian? And by the way, what if you're not even 164th American Indian and you would like to wear Indian headdress? Why is that bad? Why is that insulting? Isn't that a compliment? That would strike me as a compliment. But very few people fight because it's hard to fight bullies. I love fighting bullies. I fought bullies as a kid. I was kicked out of class a lot because I was always the biggest kid. I was 6'4" in high school. So I actually punched bullies. I hate bullies. That's why I hate the left, because they're bullies. Not liberals. I always make liberals are weak, but they're not leftists. They're not bullies. They let the bullies bully, but they're not bullies. But the left is. I'm sad. It's just sad. I have a great, great personal life. I'm blessed. My cup runneth over. Wonderful kids, wonderful wife, wonderful friends, wonderful life. But I'm sad for the greatest country that was ever invented. The left is trying to destroy it. And I don't know, maybe they'll succeed. It's a great experiment, the American experiment in liberty. But the left doesn't like liberty. It likes to control. They love controlling people. Okay, that's where we're at. Now time to your questions. Okie-doke. Let's see here. Ashley, 22, Oklahoma. Hi, Ashley. Hi, Dennis. Oh, yeah, that was how it began. All right, hi. What were some of your experiences as a young man working in the USSR, and how did that journey begin? Well, specifically, when I was just turned 21, I was sent to the Soviet Union because I knew Hebrew and Russian. I studied Russian in college, and I learned Hebrew in my Jewish school. So I was a perfect choice, so to speak, to go into the Soviet Union, then Soviet Union, and smuggle in religious items to Jews, because the Soviet Union did not allow Christians or Jews to practice their religion. And I smuggled in Jewish items, and I smuggled out names of Jews who wanted to leave. And I was sent in for a month. It was a very difficult month, as you would imagine. A lot of tension. I mean, stuff like out of movies, where I would throw things over fences in the middle of the night, and where somebody might pick it up and be able to get something. People sticking a note with their name into my hand, surreptitiously, in the hope that it wouldn't be found by the KGB, Komitet Государственной безопасности. Committee for Government Security. That's what it was. Undo, cancel, there we go. So yeah, that's what it was like. It was a very powerful obviously life-changing experience. So when I got back to the United States, that's when I began lecturing. I was this kid who went to the Soviet Union, so I lectured on what it was like there. So I've been lecturing my entire adult life. I've been in public life since I became an adult at 21. I have a very odd life. I admit it. And blessed one, and with the usual difficulties that humans have. All right, let's see here. AJ 26, California. What is your opinion on tax cuts? Is it hypocritical to implement tax cuts while increasing deficit spending? No, but it is a little hypocritical. The question is whether or not there's a choice. See, this is a very complex and important question you posed. The dream of America was to have as small a government as possible so as to maximize human potential. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. It's one of my mottos. Everybody should have it as a bumper sticker. The bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. Because that's true. For example, the dream was, in America, you took care of yourself, you took care of your family, you took care of your community. Now the dream is the government takes care of you, or the government takes care of your family, government takes care of your community. You just do what you want. You don't have any obligations. That's a very, very bad thing. We become rights drunk instead of obligations drunk. It's a big difference between the Judeo-Christian value system and the secular value system. Judeo-Christian is, what are my obligations towards my fellow human being? The secular world is, what are my rights? It's a big difference. If you grow up thinking you're obligated, then you have a lot of rights. Of course we have rights, and by the way, the rights come from our Creator. That's in the Declaration of Independence. If they come from people, people can take them away. But anyway, so the question is a good one. But if you are going to have tax cuts, so theoretically less revenue for the government, how could you also increase government spending? Then you are increasing the government debt, right? The deficit. But here's something you should know. When taxes are reduced, the government gets more money. I know it sounds counterintuitive. I completely understand that. You're lowering taxes, then government gets more money. That's correct. That's what's exactly happened now. It's called the Laffer curve. We have a whole video on the Laffer curve, Laffer. Arthur Laffer is the one who pointed it out. At a certain point of taxation, after you get higher than that level, the revenue decreases. Look, it's obvious. Let's say we tax people at 100%. Would we get more tax revenue or less tax revenue? Less, because nobody would work. At a given point, people stop working. The government's going to take so much more and more money away, it becomes completely unproductive. But if you let people work harder and keep more, they'll actually earn more and then pay more taxes. Next. Martin, 14, Indianapolis, Indiana. Can you show us your favorite pen collection? What inks do you use? Which one is your favorite? Okay. I admit this is not going to interest a lot of you, or all of you, or most of you, or any of you. No, some of you. But I don't care. Martin, you're my man. I hope I meet you one day. So I have not written essentially with a ballpoint pen since high school. My older brother wrote with a fountain pen. You probably don't even know what a fountain pen is, a lot of you. It's a pen you fill with ink, and it is the smoothest writing. If you ever try it, you'll fall in love with it. And I fell in love with it in high school. That's all I write with. And so I knew this would be a question. So I took a few of mine. I have a lot more than this, believe it or not. They're beautiful too. So here, let's get some close-ups. And I mean, tell me this is not gorgeous. This is from Italy. They're gorgeous, these pens. And here's an example. That's a Visconti, if I'm not mistaken. There's one beautiful. I love yellow. Yellow's a happy color. There's another Italian pen, different maker, Aurora. And here, now let me show you what a fountain pen, the nib. It's called a nib. Can you get in on that? That's not a ballpoint pen. So the ink goes through here. You fill it up with ink. And by the way, there's every color in the world, from orange to gray to aqua, turquoise, red, burgundy, literally hundreds of colors. That's part of the fun. And it's much richer. If I showed you the way a ballpoint pen wrote and then this is like 4 times as rich and deep. It's gorgeous stuff. And writing with it is much more fun. Here's another one. This one, I love this one. It's simple black one. It's from Japan, Sailor. The Japanese have very fine nibs. Nibs is the point. They're very fine because to write in Japanese characters, you have to have very precision little strokes. So they really know how to make good nibs. And here's a Parker from France. It writes terrific. My wife even fell in love. To her amazement, she's fallen in love. This is hers. This gorgeous turquoise pen that we got in Italy, and it is Italian. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, these are works of art. So now that's just a few of them. Now, as regards ink, where's the ink? Here we go. So after trying virtually every brand of ink in the world, or nearly every, so I have fallen in love with this Japanese maker, Pilot, and they're all the names of the inks are in Japanese. They're beautifully packaged. It's pretty expensive. It's lists for $35 a bottle. But I mean, it's not like water. You don't just use them. And it's a beautiful bottle. So you see the color of the ink is on the box. And here it is. Ink is half the fun of fountain pens. Give it a try. Fountain pens come from a few dollars to $1,000 or even more. And I hope you do. You know what? The trick in life is to try to make as many things possible as fun as possible. And then enjoy yourself. All right, I'll close that later. I try to make every elevator ride fun. It's one of my internal projects is, can I make somebody laugh by the 4th floor? It's a little game I play with myself. All right. Noah, 17, Irvine, California. What is your all-time favorite quote? Wow. I have no idea. I don't know if I have an all-time favorite quote. I have an all-time favorite biblical verse. Those who love God must hate evil. If you think you can't love God if you don't hate evil. That's a good one. I love that one. Oh, Churchill had so many great quotes. Shakespeare had great quotes. And I'm not comparing myself to these people, but somebody's made a big list of some of my better lines. Like, the bigger the government, the smaller the citizen. But quotes are good. Books of quotations, though, it's interesting. Their batting average is very small. They're not all great quotes, these quotation books. Some are good, but a lot of them aren't. Okay. Brian, 22, Cleveland, Ohio. Hi, Dennis. Hi, Brian. How is it possible to be pro-life and also in favor of the death penalty? I am in favor of the death penalty because I am pro-life. It diminishes the worth of life to let murderers keep their lives. You take a life? Okay. You can stay alive. It's only if we take the life of at least some murderers, and I'm not for taking all murderers because it has to be premeditated and a whole host of things, and we have to be absolutely certain, maybe even with DNA. But as the Bible puts it, you take the life of a murderer because in God's image every person was created. In other words, you sustain the belief that human life is precious by taking the life of a murderer. Look, let me ask you a question. It's a very simple way of putting this. Let us say we said all murderers get 5 years in prison or pay a fine. Would we be cheapening human life? Yes or no? Of course we would. We're cheapening human life by letting every murderer live. So that's how I am pro-life and pro-death penalty. I don't want to cheapen human life. Maria in Denver, 18. Do I prefer gloves or mittens? Never thought of it. In fact, I realized I never wore a mitten. I wore gloves because I grew up in New York City. It was very cold winter. So I have no good answer for that, but I took the question anyway. I'm going to try that once, though. Mittens. Can you grab things as well with a mitten as with a glove, where you don't have finger utilization? Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe it's good, though, for making snowballs. Yeah. All right, Maria. Sorry. Let's see. Ben, 16, Lancaster, California. What are your thoughts on the future of the film industry? I have no thoughts on the future of the film industry. I could tell you about the present film industry. There are some good films being made. I mean, there's no question. But it seems like the film industry relies now on sequels. This very little original stuff. So, this worked, so now we'll do part 4. That's one thing. And another is that a lot of it is just meaningless, obviously. Meaningless films. It's fine. It's okay. I play hearts, that's meaningless. There's room for the meaningless in life. But a lot of the, quote, meaningful films they make are really just political statements made by the people who run the film world, who are on the cultural left. It's very interesting. I asked many years ago, when was the last movie made about a good marriage? And nobody could think of any. Maybe because it's boring. No, I'm not joking. Maybe people think, what's more interesting, a marriage falling apart or a happy marriage? So presumably a marriage falling apart. But it's still interesting if you could make one about a real marriage. It's good, but for two people to live with each other for a long time, that's a challenge. It's a beautiful challenge, but it's a challenge. But it's hard to make such a movie. It's easy to make a movie with more car crashes. It's all technical effects, great. But I don't find that to be interesting. I find human beings more interesting than car crashes. I'm in the minority, yes, apparently. But at least with regard to movies. But that would be fascinating to explore real life, real marriage, real raising of children, real growing up. But it's hard to write a good script for that. It's much easier to write a script with, shoot 'em, bang 'em, kill 'em, and that stuff. But I'm not really the one to ask the producer of my show and the executive director of PragerU, Alan Estrin. He taught screenwriting at the American Film Institute for many years. He's a screenwriter by trade. He would have a good answer for that. So on that note, I thank you for being with me. I am very touched by how many people watch these fireside chats. And I'm glad to hear it, because it's a real chance just obviously you're not here, but it's a chance to relate to you in a very direct way. And I appreciate that opportunity. And I thank you, and I hope you'll watch more PragerU videos, touch people's lives with it. And I would like to remind you that I think my books are important, but I never push them, except for one, because if we don't start taking the Bible seriously again, as we did throughout American history, I don't think we have a great future. Not because I'm a believer, but because it's the greatest book ever written, and it's got more wisdom than basically almost any of our universities combined. Wisdom is the key to life. Knowledge, Google has knowledge, but it has no wisdom. The trick in life is to have wisdom, but you're not born with wisdom. You have to develop it. So I've always wanted to learn from people who lived before me. They've gone through the same thing called life. So I always thought, this is what I thought, and with this I'll end. I have imagery when I think of concepts. I always have an image. So here's my image of what wisdom is. So if you're standing on a hill, let's say, or on a cliff, and you see people walking, and every one of them falls off and dies. Wisdom is, I won't walk that way because I don't want to die. But we don't have that anymore. We have, I'll learn from me. No. I want to learn from others. That's wisdom. So I want to learn what the finest minds said before me, whether it's Shakespeare or the Bible, and I think the Bible's the best. I think Shakespeare's second best. But if you think you're going to develop all of this wisdom on your own, by the time you develop any, you'll be very, very old. And you would have wasted a life when you could be learning wisdom from people who preceded you. That's why I knew my generation was really screwed up when it developed the idea, never trust anyone over 30. Because I knew even as a kid then, wow, they really believe there's nothing to learn from others. They have no wisdom. I ache to be with people over 30. In fact, with the Bible, I was with people over 2,000 years old, 3,000 years old. So anyway, I've written the Rational Bible, and even if you have no belief in God, you think the Bible is nonsense, it's particularly for you. It's meant to change your life.